So we'll take a look at tonight's series. I want to start with these are the top three right now in the predictions for the playoffs. Mitchell Lee has 26 points. Maximilian 43 and Neil Taylor are tied with 23, and there's a bunch with 21, and a few with 20 as well. So congratulations so far to Mitchell Lee. You are in the lead. These are points up until last night. This is not including tonight's games. So with that out of the way, tonight's games, the Rangers, big win. I was nervous on that game because from the opening face-off, they were playing a very physical, almost arrogant game. And I think when you play that kind of game, you're playing into the strengths of Montreal. But they pulled Tanner Glass out of the lineup, which seemed to be the right move. They stopped trying to physically push Montreal around and started playing more of a back and forth style. I mean, they won the game, and they won it by a goal. It was a close game. Lundqvist with a huge win. Now it's a best of three, and Montreal has two of those three. So Montreal's still in the driver's seat. Montreal, though, the pressure's on them for Game 5. They have to win Game 5, because if they go home and lose, all of a sudden the Rangers look good. So that's what happens there. Huge win tonight for Columbus, if only for respectability. And it's the first time in franchise history they've won a game in regulation in the playoffs. So let's just take a step back from where they were in the standings and how great they looked and realize these guys achieved more this season than anybody expected, and they probably finished a little bit higher than they would have rightfully been. I don't want to make it sound like they're not a really good team, because they are. But I think they finished a little loftier than we probably expected. I could definitely have seen them finishing where the Rangers or the Bruins were, or I should say, where the Leafs were. I wouldn't see them finishing out of the playoffs if you replayed all 82 games, but I think that huge winning streak and just the momentum they picked up from that was massive. And it inflated their win-loss record to a point where they were probably perceived as being a bigger contender than they were. They beat Pittsburgh tonight, and they beat Pittsburgh with a skill game, which is impressive. It definitely helped that Crosby seemed to be gravitating towards kicking pucks into his own net rather than scoring in the other end. And I'm not going to shit-talk Crosby, because Crosby is still the cream of the crop in the NHL in terms of playoff performers. Right now it's 2-0 San Jose in the other game I'm watching, and Connor McDavid and the Oilers are being reminded these are the Sharks, and it's not over. This series, though, is 2-1 Edmonton. Again, what happens tonight is much like what happens in New York. If San Jose wins this game tonight, if San Jose holds this lead or increases this lead, whatever they do, and they tie the series at 2, the pressure shifts. All of the pressure is then on the Oilers to win Game 5. They have to win Game 5. If you look at the other 3 series in the West, there's no pressure right now on the Preds, on the Blues, or on the Ducks. And especially on the Ducks. The Ducks have Game 4 on the road, so if Calgary wins that game to avoid the sweep, and they could, I could see every team avoiding a sweep in the first round, definitely. But because they've been a lot closer than this board would indicate, the Ducks will win one of those games at home. The Ducks don't lose 2 at home to Calgary in a row. It just doesn't happen. St. Louis, they've blown leads before, but not with this core, not with this group. Nashville, there's no way they blow a 3-0 lead. But if they lose Game 4, the pressure's not on them unless a Game 6 is forced. Same for St. Louis. And Anaheim, it would be until Game 7 before there would really be pressure on Anaheim. Much like Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's now coming home looking to finish off Columbus. I fully expect them to do that. But at least Columbus gets off the skunked line, so to speak. They don't get shut out in the playoffs. And I know that was big. And Tortorella said all the right things before the game about how they wanted to win, and he wanted them to have that experience and to have that at home, and that was important. And then they can go from there. They can go from game to game after that. So, really like everything that was said by the coach tonight, and we'll see if it works tomorrow. Or not tomorrow, on Thursday. Because if they win in Pittsburgh, then we have a series. Now, tomorrow night's games. Washington is in Toronto again. I have a hard time betting against the Leafs in this one, but I think this series is going to go for a while. I think this series is going to 7. At least 6 or 7. I can't see it being ended in 5. I can't see Toronto winning tomorrow night and then winning in Washington. So, and that's the only way this goes to 5, of course. So I think Washington wins tomorrow and gets home ice back. Not that it's going to matter in this series. Ottawa, though, I think is in the driver's seat. I think when Boston came back from that 3-0 down and didn't win the game, I think that was the series. I think Ottawa wins the game tomorrow night. Boston, with all of the injury problems they've had, I have nothing but respect for Boston. I don't have any hatred for them. I'm certainly not talking about, oh, they suck and I miss the good old days, and I'm not saying any of that crap, because I don't. Injuries happen, and when you're playing with most of your defense out of the lineup, it is really hard to do what they've done. Forcing overtime against Ottawa showed a lot of guts, and I like Boston moving forward. So even though I believe that Ottawa is going to win this series and probably win it in 5 now, I really like Boston moving forward. I think Boston next year is going to be really good, and I think Boston's going to challenge for the division next year. The other 2 games tomorrow night, it'd be easy to sleep on them, because Minnesota and St. Louis, it's in St. Louis. It looks like St. Louis is going to wrap, and Anaheim's in Calgary, and it looks like Anaheim's going to wrap it. Here's the thing. Calgary really, really hates Anaheim. And maybe fans hate Dougie Hamilton as well. There are certain elements in this series to make one believe that tomorrow night's game is going to be nothing short of a street fight. I anticipate there could be a ton of goals on both sides because neither team's goaltending has been stellar. St. Louis, Minnesota is the opposite. I could see it being another 2-1 game, overtime, nail-biter. And I think Minnesota wins the game tomorrow, much like Columbus did tonight, because it is a bloody shame to see a team have such a good season and then it just fails at the end. So I think Minnesota wins tomorrow. I think Anaheim finishes it tomorrow, though. I think the first team golfing is Calgary. And right from the day that I started this board, I was dreading that Calgary would draw Anaheim, because it's a horrible matchup for Calgary. Anaheim does all of the things that Calgary does. They play that tough, in-your-face game, and they ride that line towards being dirty, not quite, maybe a little bit over the line sometimes. But the Ducks have been doing it for longer. They've got more experience. And I honestly think the Ducks have a better roster. I think the depth is better in Anaheim. So it's not a great matchup for Calgary. I think Edmonton would have been a better matchup. I honestly had a hard time before the playoffs trying to figure out which of these teams Calgary could beat. And I'm not saying that to insult Calgary. It's just I don't know which team in their division I would have favored them against. Edmonton did really well against them during the regular season. I guess San Jose probably would have been their best matchup, but they wouldn't have been able to meet San Jose unless San Jose finished second and they got third. Because if Calgary had got second, Edmonton would have got third, and San Jose would have dropped down and played Anaheim. So, it's a rough matchup for Calgary. It is, and I honestly feel bad for Calgary fans right now, because much like Chicago, what do you fix? Although the difference being, Chicago's got an older roster, and Chicago's going to have a much harder time finding a fix than Calgary, who's got a much lower roster in terms of age, and younger is a better way of putting it. A younger roster, and guys like Gaudreau and Monahan are going to learn from this. As I said in a video I did earlier tonight, took Yzerman quite a few tries. Gaudreau and Monahan are nowhere near that number of tries. The idea of a Stanley Cup coming home to Canada, it's possible when you look at this board. It's not probable, but it's possible. And if Edmonton knocks out Boston, if Toronto's able to pull off the upset, if Montreal gets their win, if Edmonton gets their win, you got 4 of the final 8 are Canadian teams. So this could be the year. I'm not seeing it as probable because Ottawa and Montreal would play against each other, so one of them takes the other one out. Toronto would end up with Pittsburgh, which is a Herculean task to knock them out, and it looks like Edmonton would end up with the Ducks, and I think the Ducks would beat the Oilers. So, again, it's one of those things where then the last team you have is either Montreal or Ottawa, and they have to take out Pittsburgh, which is going to be really, really difficult. Pittsburgh showed cracks tonight, but when you're up 3-0, it can be tough. I mean, I picked them last night to run it out. I figured, well, they're going to win the series. And they almost came back and beat Columbus, but almost doesn't count. So Pittsburgh failed to close out that series, and that is important. That is something that it can add up in later rounds. Let me know what you guys think. Again, like other prediction videos, make sure that your predictions to end up in the running with these guys. Make sure that it's a response to my comment on this video. Those are the ones I'm tracking. I'm not going through all of the comments and tracking everything else. If the response is to my comment, they get tracked. If they're not, they don't. So yeah, just have fun. Make your picks. Let me know who's going to win. Let me know by how many goals. The winner gets 1 point, and by how many goals gets 2. And if you're good, you can knock these guys off. For instance, there's one player in this competition who only started playing over the last 2 days I've tracked, and he's already got 12 points. So he's only 14 points out of the lead, and these guys, most of them have been playing every night all week. So if you make the right picks, and if you're able to figure out who's going to win that game and by how many, you're kind of set. You can absolutely get into this this top 3. And as the scores pull out a little bit more, I'll likely display more. But again, because of the way that I'm scoring this, it's close. And that's what I wanted. I wanted it to be close. I wanted everybody to feel like they have a shot. So thanks for your participation. Thanks for all your support. The channel continues to grow. And hopefully something like this can also help it grow. And I did, in terms of my Patreon reward, I mailed out the first jersey yesterday. So for Jared, if you're watching this, the jersey's in the mail yesterday. So I'll send you the tracking number. It should be there Monday, I think is when it should be there. I think it'll be there before that. I know they always say 5 business days, but in terms of it being, I'm on the West Coast, you're in a Western province, it shouldn't take that long. It normally doesn't. So I'll send you the tracking number. We mailed it out yesterday, even though yesterday's a holiday, so it wouldn't have gone in the mail until today. But I had to get that first one out. For me to ship out jerseys, it's costing me $15 each in Canada. I don't know the American cost yet. Likely, it's probably going to be over $20. So it's, you know, the shipping gets a little bit up there. So I'm not going to complain anymore about shipping on eBay. Because, you know, I've looked at shipping for jerseys and gone, that seems a little bit steep, doesn't it? Nope, they're absolutely spot on. That's $20 shipping for a jersey is perfectly fine, and if it's $30 from the States, again, that's right about where they belong. So that's another thing for me to let you guys know who buy jerseys on eBay, and if you look at shipping and go, is that really what they're paying? Yeah, that's what they're paying. Again, thank you very much. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through, and let me know what you guys think of the playoffs in the comments below. Thanks for watching.